So coming to you live today, or not live today, from Scottsdale Weight Loss Center, I think we have a really interesting topic. I'm Craig Primack.
And I'm Dr. Robert Ziltzer. So we're the co-founders of Scottsdale Weight Loss Center. I wanted to start, obviously, GLP-1s are all the rage. What did we do before GLP-1 medications?
So you and I have been doing this for a long time. It's still the
20
base.
years?
20 years this year. Absolutely. It's still the basics. We start out with some kind of dietary manipulation. Decrease your calories. Keep your protein high. We often use meal replacements since the beginning of time because they give us the nutrition that you need, especially your macros. Number two, some kind of activity and movement throughout the day. Number three, it's that education piece that helps you order off a menu, that read a food label, eat in a social situation, all that learning that you get before you need it. And then medications. The biggest thing that's changed since we've started is our medications.
Okay, so prior to the GLP-1s, we had a drug called phentermine. It's a stimulant medications. We still use a lot of phentermine, right? There's a shorter acting stimulant. So phentermine is a stimulant. Diethyl is a stimulant. Then there's a drug used for seizures, but also helps with weight loss called topiramate, often combined with phentermine. Sometimes we use metformin for weight loss, right? And then we also use a drug called Contrave, which has Wellbutrin, naltrexone, great for cravings. And then fast forward, now we've got these great new medications. First of all, can you lose weight just with medications alone? Like, is that something that is doable for someone?
So everyone comes in extremes. At one extreme, we can lose weight with just a drug. But the question is it good weight? Just losing weight is not the question that I think we should be asking. Am I losing fat? Am I keeping the muscle that I have so that my metabolism stays at a certain level? And the other is what works better? And we've talked about it throughout the years, is the four legs of the chair. Those four things I said are each one leg of the chair. And if you just start, it's January and you start at the gym and you just start going to the gym 5 days a week, that's one leg. And things come in and your chair falls over. You put two legs down, it's a little better. When you put four legs, your chair is very sturdy, solid. And when stress comes into your life, you now have a solid base to work from and it doesn't throw you off. Where if you just do the one or the two, with enough stress, and we all have those days, weeks, even months, it throws you off.
I kind of think about medications as being a tool to help you follow your meal plan. And I think too many people think, I just need the drug and I don't need anything else. And to your point, we follow their body compositions, their fat and muscle mass, and those that just go on a drug end up losing a lot of muscle, right? In addition to fat. So the core is the nutrition plan. And one of the problems with these new medications is it's really easy to just skip eating.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people do you see that just eat once or twice a day? They don't get enough protein. What happens to them?
So they start to feel lousy. I had a patient that I tell most of my patients about who started on one of the injectables way when they first came out. And he did really well for the first, he started in July. And by Thanksgiving, he was hiking with his family. Shows me a picture. In December, didn't lose weight, but we didn't make much of it. It's December. In January, he comes in and his whole affect has changed. He was really subdued. He was fatigued. And he says, I just don't have any energy for hiking or anything else. And I said, okay, so you're not exercising. Well, let's start with the basics. What are you eating? And he goes, well, interestingly enough, he didn't say it that way. I'm saying it that way. I'm having a protein something for breakfast. I don't remember if it was a bar or a shake. And I'm having a half a turkey sandwich for dinner. And that was it. And when we look at that number, he was still over 200 pounds. I think he was in the 210, 12 range. And he was having 500 calories a day. And he just felt really lousy. And so can you suppress someone's hunger too much? Absolutely. And so we brought him all the way down. We brought his hunger up a bit. And we've restarted him just recently, slowly, grading his hunger and his cravings more than just, can we get you on more drug?
And we recently learned that 1 in every 9 Americans is on a GLP-1 medication, which is astounding. Are they worth the hype? Are they really what everybody makes them out to be? Are they so groundbreaking compared to what we've had before?
So when it comes to hunger and when you look at controlled studies, absolutely. They're the most potent drugs we've ever had. But they, again, just because you have a good tool, if you have a hammer, you need to use your hammer appropriately. And I think it is just one of the tools you and I use in our toolbox every single day.
Um, so let's talk about some of the controversies. What are the big issues that you hear being talked about in the world of GLP-1 medications?
Top of the list is, are they safe?
Okay, so when we look at safety, yeah, there's the occasional patient that's going to get gallstones or pancreatitis, well less than 1% pancreatitis. But, gallstones can occur to anybody during weight loss. And then, in rats, they saw medullary thyroid cancers, but we really haven't seen big numbers in humans.
We have not seen it in humans at all.
So someone will come to me and say, my grandmother had thyroid cancer. Should that person use a GLP-1 medication?
So when we talk about thyroid cancer, there are three main types of thyroid cancer. The one that if we're truly looking at it, is called the medullary, as you brought up, which is the third of the common ones. I think it's only 5%. And I honestly don't know that in the 25 years I've been practicing medicine, I've actually seen someone with medullary thyroid cancer. What I tell people, which is interesting, so use both semaglutide, brand name Wegovy right now, and tirzepatide, brand name Zepbound. They are both peptides that have one or two peptides in them. And both of those hormones are already in our body. So that's how I start the conversation. Our natural forms of what we'll call GLP-1 last for about 3 to 4 minutes tops. So you have a meal, your body makes a whole bunch of it, and over the next hour or so uses it up. And so some people are starting to get hungry at 1 hour or 2 hours after a meal. These forms have just been tweaked just slightly, so the body can't break it down as much, and they really last about a week. We say the half-life is a week. So if you have 100% at a week, you have about 50%. The next week, you have 25%, and it goes down over about 5.5, what we call half-lives. And so are people naturally allergic to these drugs? No, because we already have them in our body. It's very rare to have a true allergy to these medicines themselves. Now, there's other things in an injectable or an oral form. They call it the incipients, the things that go with it, that keep it preserved and clean. Could we be, some of us, allergic to those? Yes, but not a lot.
So we started with liraglutide, right? So not terribly effective, but it was kind of groundbreaking because it's a new mechanism. And then we developed some of these highly, highly potent ones like semaglutide, which is Wegovy, and then tirzepatide. And then now we've got some oral options. Who do you think are the best candidates for orals? Because they really don't give the same weight loss, do they?
So they don't. If you compare the injectables to the same drug as an oral, the injectable is about 1 or 2% better, and it has 1 or 2 less percent side effects. And it's much easier to take. We talk about a subcutaneous injection. It's a really, really thin needle, typically a 31 gauge, which is smaller than the lead of most pencils. It's only going in about a half of a centimeter into your skin. You use it typically in your abdomen or the front of your thigh. And you do it once a week. You don't have to think about it for the rest of the week. The oral drugs, there are two strong ones on the market now. One is you have to take every morning. Well, you have to take them both daily. One of them you have to take on an empty stomach with just a few sips of water, not more, no other juice, food, whatever, and wait at least 30 minutes. The other one you can take whatever, but that actually has even a little less efficacy. So when people come to me the first time, I ask them, how long have you struggled with your weight and trying to lose weight? How many diets have you been on? Let's start with what's kind of the best, which is the injectable. But if you don't want an injection, let's start with an oral, and let's see how it goes.
So if you weighed 200 pounds, and you really wanted to lose 50 pounds, what would your top drug be today?
I don't have one top drug. When we look at people on GLP-1s, and I'll use that as a general term, we think there's 10 to 15% of people that are actually resistant to these drugs. There's also, on the other side, 10, maybe 12, 15% that are hyper responders. a very, very small amount of drug works really, really well. And so I think as a starter drug, either one works. As you go over time, depending what kind of medical problems you have, what your side effects are, what other medications you're on, what's your tolerance for a little bit of nausea, because nausea, heartburn, constipation, diarrhea are really the main side effects, and they're almost very predictable. And so we can start on lower doses of one of the drugs and titrate you up as your hunger and cravings need to be titrated, not forced one size fits all plan. And I think you probably do the same thing. I ask all the time, how hungry are you? And when you're hungry enough, we need to increase because that's what pulls you off a diet. When you have lunch and you're thinking about dinner, when you have dinner and you're thinking about your dessert, we probably need a little more. We can get into the nuances if you want about what I think the tirzepatides versus the semaglutides do as far as food noise and hunger and satiety. But I think starting out, either one works for people.
I'm always impressed when people come in and they think their solution is a GLP-1 medication. And they've never been on a diet before, or maybe they've tried dieting on their own. Our average patient has tried, 8 to 12 diets before they come see us. And sometimes we'll put them on the right meal plan and they don't need any medication at all. So what I will often tell these people is, hey, let's start off with your meal plan. Let's see you weekly. Because many times when you're on the right meal plan, your body goes into this state of fat burning, which releases chemicals called ketones, which suppress your hunger hormone ghrelin, right? So how often do you have people come in where they expected to get on a medication and they really didn't actually need it until maybe later, or if at all?
So as we start the conversation, what has worked for you in the past, what hasn't, I try to get into, were you successful on a particular diet in the past? Really, when we haven't found one diet that works significantly better. But for each individual person, there may be a diet that works better. Some of the philosophies are keeping protein high, keeping our carbs and fat, I'll call it lower, but not, I don't like to eliminate any of them. Keeping structure in your day so that you kind of know the amount of calories, even if you're not counting them. And most of my people do not count calories at all. That you're following a reduced calorie plan that fits into your lifestyle. And I think you and I have figured out, the person who says I can't lose weight is the person we love to see, because we find each time that there's something that we do that finally the light goes off, or goes
Our
on.
most
Sorry, the light
loyal
goes
patients, that's right.
on, I should say. And you find that thing that works for them. And I hate to say sometimes it's trial and error, but I've been doing it so long that I don't think it's a hard trial and error. We're not going through 20 different things to find the one that works for you. Maybe we start you on one thing that's worked for a lot of people and we tweak it once or twice. We tend to see our people in the beginning very often in person, but also if they need to be telemedicine. And how's it going? And based on how it's going and how much weight they're losing, you and I tweak it, I think, all the time.
So every patient's different, right? You need to be individualized because no two patients are the same. One of the most common questions that comes up is patients will say, I don't want to lose fast because if I do, I'm just going to put it all back on. How do you address those concerns?
We've had this conversation more and more. And in the studies, we've had an ongoing dialogue for 20 years about weight. The studies show that if you pick a plan that works, you actually lose fast. And if you pick a plan that doesn't work, you lose very slow. And so if you're losing a pound every 2 weeks and we bring it out, weeks after weeks, if you go 12 weeks, you've only lost 6 pounds. That is not success, I think, in what we're doing. We do look at plateaus, and people hit plateaus all the time. But a plateau is really, despite sleeping, despite staying on your diet, despite taking your medicine, despite moving, that your weight stays roughly the same for 4 weeks in a row. And we've all seen that person who's like, I'm doing that, I've hit 3 weeks, and all of a sudden something changes, and they have a huge drop the next week, and then it starts happening again. And so sometimes they're patient, but not in the beginning. In the beginning, we want to see week after week success. It's motivating, but I think, as you said, the studies also show that person is the one who's successful.
So fast is bad if you're starving yourself. Fast is bad if you're not getting enough of all the nutrients you need. But at 1 year, the people that lose the most weight are the ones who lost the most weight in the first, second, and third month, meaning faster is better, assuming you're getting everything you need: protein, vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, all the other stuff.
So, what's another myth or misconception that you see or are asked about on a regular basis here in the clinic?
Um, I, I think a common misconception is that people think they can just do intermittent fasting or eat once a day or twice a day. And in my experience, those that eat less often lose or lose less weight or actually gain weight because during those times they eat large amounts of food. So they're gaining during those times, and then they go hours without eating where they're kind of losing muscle, and then they eat again. So what we find is that patients that eat every 2 to 3 hours continually fat burn. So that's a common one. What are ones that you've found?
I think when I look at the all of the studies, so if you look at the last, intermittent fasting has been popular for 10 years, maybe. It's probably the most studied diet that in the last 10 years. And still, after all of this, you'll get one study here and one study there that says it's better somehow. But if you take all of them that we've looked at, if you're losing weight, it doesn't quite matter, particularly diet with those few things that I've talked about as the hallmarks: getting protein, getting nutrition that you need, and so forth. So I don't find most people do intermittent fasting for long periods of time. It works, seems to be maybe for a week or two. Some people, they stick for it for a month. The first 2 weeks don't work, and then it seems to work a little bit. But I don't have anybody, I'm not going to say anybody, I'm going to say the majority of people at a year are surely not intermittent fasting still.